In 2007, the world didn't ask if you had a mobile phone. They asked which Nokia you were carrying. From Manhattan boardrooms to rural villages in India, 4 out of every 10 phones on Earth had the same logo stamped on the back. Nokia controlled roughly 40% of the global mobile phone market. No company before or since has ever dominated consumer tech at that scale. At its peak, Nokia was worth over $300 billion. They were sitting on tens of billions in cash. Their phones weren't just popular, they were default. Governments used them. Corporations issued them. Entire countries built their mobile networks around Nokia hardware. Their slogan said it all: connecting people. And for a while, they genuinely did. But while the world saw an invisible empire, the foundation underneath Nokia was already cracking. This is the autopsy of a titan. A story of hardware arrogance, internal fear, and one of the most catastrophic leadership decisions in tech history. A decision that turned a $300 billion empire into a $7 billion fire sale. Early 2007, Nokia launches the N95. On paper, it's a monster. GPS, a 5-megapixel camera, Carl Zeiss optics, multimedia features that competitors couldn't touch. Reviewers call it the most advanced phone ever made. Inside Nokia, there's confidence, bordering on arrogance. Engineers believe they are years ahead of everyone else. Executives believe the smartphone race is already over. Then, January 9th, 2007. A man in a black turtleneck walks onto a stage in San Francisco. Apple unveils the iPhone. Publicly, Nokia laughs. No physical keyboard, no copy-paste, no tries G. A fragile glass screen. Executives dismiss it as a niche luxury product for rich Americans. Apple, they say, doesn't understand phones. Nokia understands phones. They've been making them for decades. But behind closed doors, panic hits fast. Internal Nokia communications later revealed that within 24 hours of the iPhone announcement, senior designers and engineers raised red flags. Not because of the hardware, Nokia still had better specs, but because of the user experience. The iPhone didn't feel like a phone. It felt like the future. Nokia sold devices. Apple sold an experience. And Nokia suddenly realized they were in trouble. The obvious question is, why didn't Nokia just fix their software? Because their software was already a corpse. Nokia's operating system Symbian was built in the late 1990s. It was designed for phones with tiny screens, no touch input, almost no memory, and extremely limited processing power. For years, that was fine. Symbian powered hundreds of models and sold billions of devices. But by 2008, Symbian had become a nightmare. Engineers described it as spaghetti code. Changing a single UI element required modifying multiple systems buried deep inside the OS. A feature that took Apple engineers a few dozen lines of code could take Nokia engineers thousands. Every phone model needed its own customized version of the operating system. Apps had to be rewritten again and again for slightly different devices. Nokia wasn't building on solid ground. They were stacking floors on top of a swamp. Every update made the system more fragile. Every new feature increased the risk of total failure. Meanwhile, Apple and Google were building modern operating systems from scratch, optimized for touch, apps, and the internet. Nokia was trapped by its own past success. But Symbian wasn't the most dangerous problem inside Nokia. The most dangerous problem was fear. Multiple internal studies and interviews later confirmed that Nokia had developed a full-blown culture of fear. Senior executives were described as volatile, aggressive, and openly hostile to bad news. Managers who raised concerns were labeled negative, disloyal, or not team players. So people stopped telling the truth. Middle management learned how to survive by optimizing lies. Missed deadlines became almost complete. Broken features were on track. Progress reports were massaged to look positive before they moved up the chain. By the time information reached the executive level, reality had been filtered beyond recognition. Nokia's leadership was flying a jet straight toward a mountain. But every instrument in the cockpit showed clear skies. By 2010, Nokia's market share was slipping fast. Apple was expanding globally. Android was exploding across multiple manufacturers. Nokia still sold huge volumes, but growth was gone. Profit margins were shrinking. The company needed radical change, so they hired an outsider, Stephen Elop, a former Microsoft executive. In early 2011, Elop sent an internal email that would become infamous, the burning platform memo. He compared Nokia to a man standing on an oil platform on fire, forced to jump into freezing water to survive. The memo admitted what employees already knew. Apple had changed the game. Android was dominating, and Nokia was falling behind. The honesty shocked the company, but then came the fatal mistake. Before Nokia had a competitive alternative ready, Elop publicly announced that Nokia was abandoning Symbian and betting its future on Windows Phone, a platform that barely existed and had almost no market share. Overnight, Nokia's existing products became obsolete. This triggered what's known as the Osborne effect, when a company announces a future product so loudly that customers stop buying the current one. Sales collapsed almost instantly. Why buy a Nokia phone today if the CEO just told you it's dead? Nokia didn't just jump off the burning platform. They told the entire world it was burning, and then pushed the company into the ocean. The Windows Phone bet failed. Developers ignored it. Consumers ignored it. Carriers barely supported it. Nokia's market share collapsed from 40% to single digits in just a few years. Billions in cash reserves evaporated. Layoffs followed. Entire divisions were shut down. By 2013, the end was unavoidable. Microsoft bought Nokia's phone business for about $7.2 billion. And to understand how brutal that number is, consider this. Nokia had previously spent more than that just to acquire a mapping company, Navtech, years earlier. A company once valued at over $300 billion was sold for a fraction of its former quarterly revenue. The Titan was gone. Nokia didn't fail because they were lazy. They didn't fail because they lacked talent. They didn't fail because they missed one product cycle. They failed because success blinded them. Because fear replaced honesty. Because they optimized the present while ignoring the future. Nokia is the ultimate warning for every tech giant alive today. Market dominance is rented, not owned, and the rent is due every single day. If you don't disrupt yourself, someone else will happily do it for you.